Hi everyone, my name is May Chong. Thanks for joining our Q&A segment with Sarah Tan, the CEO of Leaderboard Consulting. Sarah Tan has just conducted handling interview questions technique with TalentCorp just now, okay? And out of which that we have 23 questions that was being posted to her. And she only managed to answer 7 questions. So now we are going to go through the balance of the questions, okay? So please enjoy our segment. The first question for this segment is, I had a golden handshake with my superior because she asked me to leave. I don't know how to answer this question. Why you left your previous job in all the upcoming interviews?
Okay, for this question, I really don't know. I mean, the person who actually posed this question, I have to know basically the background, right? Why you have a golden handshake with your superior, because sometimes, you can always, if the interviewer never asks you, about, or they have no knowledge that you have a golden handshake, you don't have to tell them, right? Because if you in your CV, you have worked 3 to 5 years, and you basically resign, you can just tell them, I resign from the company because, you want to seek for better career opportunity, right? So this could be a very good positive reason to say, unless, they probe further and they, will ask you if it's very short term or why you're terminated, So this information, for me to help you to answer this, I need to know exactly what's the story behind that you actually have a golden handshake. To help you to answer this question. But my advice is always don't bitch about your boss, about your manager, about previous company. So try to think of some good reasons why you left your previous job. Okay, I hope that helps.
I think that your last line is actually very, very important, right? Please always remember, do not bitch about your previous employment or your previous company. Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
The next question is, right, what is the expected salary? Can I ask for a 20% increment during this pandemic?
I have encountered candidates who actually ask for that kind of percentage increment, and all depends on the job, right? As you know, during this pandemic, we have jobs that are still in very high demands, and even there are companies who are willing to pay more to get this kind of skills that they're looking for. So it all depends on the job, But if it's a job that the supply is more than the demand, right? Then you cannot really bargain more. But if the supply is less, in the market, your worth, your value, go for it. You can ask for 20%, 25% because the employer will pay. Okay? So do your research. All right?
Many recruiters are not showing the company name or the location for the job. Does it give a bad impression if I reject the interview when I found out that the company or the location is not suitable for me?
No, it's okay. Application hiring is a free market, right? So you are definitely obliged to reject. Of course, reject it nicely because you do not know the location or where the company is located, right? So when you find out, you can always say, thank you so much, I really didn't know that this job was actually based in Kulin, so I've decided that this is not suitable for me. That's okay, right? Don't worry about it.
The candidate just need to be transparent to the recruiter or to the hiring company why they are rejecting it lah.
Yes, correct.
Most importantly, for the candidate not to ghost the person they're dealing with.
Yeah, correct. Right. You say it correctly, May. Yes, that's true.
The next question is, I signed a non-disclosure agreement with my ex-employee when they terminated me with compensation. So when the new employer asks me why I leave, I can't answer. So how does this person handle this situation?
I think you need to understand what is the non-disclosure agreement about. Usually they didn't say you cannot reveal to them about why you left them, right? It's more towards the confidentiality of the company data information or the amount that they pay you that they say that you should not disclose. Because sometimes they give you a fat, paycheck, right? They say, okay, please don't go and tell everybody that we offer you this amount to get you, for you to leave the company, right? So if that is the case, and anyhow, if an employer asks you why you left, you can always say some good things about the company, right? And anyhow, the company pay you something to let you go. So for me, it's the only good thing is to, as I said again, right, don't bitch about your past employers. So try to think something positive, right? Why you leave could be, you're seeking for a better career, right? You've been working in that company for more than 10 years now, yeah? And there's a change of management, probably, there's a change of manager, and you felt that it's time for you to actually move on, right? So I think that would be actually a pretty good reasons, yeah, to tell your future employer or your recruiters, okay?
So basically, Sarah, you're saying that, you know, that for the applicants, right, instead of focusing about the push factor, they should actually focus more in terms of the pull factor, what attracted them to the next job.
Yes, exactly, precisely, yeah.
Oh, okay. Just now we had a question about asking for 20% increment. Okay, so the next question is actually terbalik story, you know. How about if I'm accepting a job offer with a 50% pay cut?
Okay. Wow, that's huge.
And they ask me, why am I still wants to accept this role?
Okay, all back to your motive, right? You know, first, of course, you have been accepted for an interview because you apply for the job and you've agreed, right, to attend the interview. So you have definitely know that this is a small company and the title is small, right? So your motive is that you want the job, you like the job, right? Not so much of the small title and not so much of the small company, but you felt that the job was something that you really can benefit of, or you want to gain some skills, right? And of course, it's a 50% pay cut, and you also have already gone in with open eyes to know that it's a small title, it's a small company, so you don't expect much in terms of salary. But of course, this goes down to, as I said earlier in my training, right? What is your minimum commitment, right? Are you willing to take a 50% pay cut? Is this enough for you to survive? You have to bring food on the table for your family or for yourself. But if you think that this is not good enough and you have to suffer, then I better tell you, don't take the job lah.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So, but if you think you can survive with it, why not go for it? Because this is going to give you some experience that you've always been seeking for, right? So, and it's always good to work 1 year, 2 years, right, in that company to gain that experience. Okay. Hope that helps.
The next question is also one of my favorite questions that I used to ask during a lot of my interviews, right?
Yeah.
So how to answer this question? Tell me about a time you failed. Personally, I don't see failure. I only see opportunity. So how do I tell them that?
Yeah, I think this is not a question that recruiter purposely want to ask you to talk about failure. Yeah, you must know the motive behind that question. I know it's always good to say opportunity, right? And you don't want to see failure as a failure, it's opportunity, right? But the reason why an interviewer asks is they want to see how you react to failure, because there are times when you encounter failure, and that is definitely true in all our working life. You know, you definitely have failure in terms of hitting targets, failure of doing certain deadlines, you know, but how do you manage it? People want to know, because this is talking about real life, right? So you must be able to explain, yes, I have failed before, right? But the most important is how do you react to it? How do you learn from that failure? This is what we want to know. Instead of saying, I see opportunity. Yes, opportunity means you just want to say, okay, I failed, but I don't think about it. Let's go forward. You know, are you then also hiding your failure, right? And not trying to learn from it? So most important is, you know there's a failure, you acknowledge there's a failure, and you learn from it, yeah, and move forward. So that's what we want to see from a recruiter perspective.
Is it appropriate to drink water during an interview?
Why not? Is that a question as well?
Yes. That's the next question. Is it appropriate to drink water during the interview?
Oh, I would definitely say yes. Even in the face-to-face interview, right, May, you know, when you attend an interview, people will serve you water, right? You know, so that means it's acceptable, right? So always just, of course, mutual sounds a bit odd, but it's always good enough, polite enough to say, you know, like, excuse me, I will really need to take a water, a sip or two, right? You know? And make sure you offer to the interviewer, you know, this is how you warm up, right?
But how if the interview is done virtually?
Well, just take the cup and say, excuse me, May, you know, I'm really thirsty now. I need to drink, you know, can I take a sip of water? right? I hope you also can take a break. Yeah. So I think this is one way to actually, for me, it's a very good opportunity to actually
break the ice, right?
break the ice. Yes, correct, May. Yeah.
Okay. And the next question is also a very interesting question, because I think that this question is based on very, very real scenario. Okay. Initial interview by recruiter, there's a tendency to silo the candidates back to the old environment. For example, right, if I'm from an MNC environment, they would actually like to shortlist me for MNC environment. Whereas if I am not from a BPO environment and I like to apply for a BPO role, they will not shortlist me for that role. Okay.
I recall a friend who told me, right, she talked to me about runway, short runway and long runway. I thought it was very interesting. So let me give you this example, right? She said now in this time of pandemic, right, a lot of companies doesn't want to take a long runway. That means it doesn't give you a long time for you to actually pick up, and learn the ropes of the job, right? But they want a short runway. It means they want somebody who's really ready and run on the job, right? Because of the situation we are in now, because the environment demands for it, so that's reason why employers are looking for candidates who has experience in the same industry, right? Because they don't have time to train you for 6 months or wait for you to perform in 1 year. Or sometimes could be, they have already encountered or candidates from different background, and they have learned from their lessons that if they hire candidates from different background, right, they may not be able to adjust. They may not be able to work well with the team, right? And they may not be able to perform to the expectations. So that's the reason why some recruiters prefer candidates from the same industry. Right?
So they can immediately, once they land, they can immediately fly already.
Yes,
do
you
the
can
job,
put it that
right?
way, man.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
And it's also, I just want to twist the question a little bit. I just wanted to twist the question a little bit, right? Would it also be good for the candidates if they are entering to an industry or an environment they are very familiar with, they are more familiar with, which they have actually performed in their past employment?
So you meaning, can you please clarify again your question? Maybe?
Okay, so for example, I'm just going to use an example, because HR is a very generic role.
Yes.
HR is a very generic role, right? But if you are a HR manager from a manufacturing environment, right, and then you want to join as a HR manager for a BPO environment, or you yourself, you will take some time to learn.
Yes, you will definitely have.
You will be able to perform faster if you get the opportunity, right, as a HR manager in a manufacturing environment or assembly environment, right?
Yeah,
that will also be good for the candidate themselves. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
Of course, sometimes you want to move to a different industry to gain different experiences, right? That's always from the candidate's perspective, right? Because in certain role, actually, it's transferable, right? Because like HR, as you mentioned, the skills and knowledge are actually quite the same, right? The skills of how you do compensations, how you handle staff terminations, how you do recruitment. But of course, in different industry, there could be a different demand because the challenges, right? The structures and all that could be different. So you can learn different things if you join different industries. Right. But of course, from an employer perspective, they want to hire you. They may say they prefer someone for manufacturing. As I said earlier, it's because they want you to run, and run faster, and don't take longer to actually assimilate yourself into the culture. Yeah. Especially this is only more required if you're taking manager level and above. One is because you have a team to manage, right? You have a management that you have to manage, right? And you get to make fast decisions. But generally, if coming from an executive level position, most companies are quite willing to even take people from different background, different industry. As I said earlier, it's always the attitude. If you have a good attitude, they may take you in as well. But manager role and senior management level role is a bit different expectation, right? It's because you have to make decisions, and your decision has to sometimes based on your understanding of the industry that you're in, to be able to make the right decisions.
The next question is about timing. So we have actually two questions that is actually quite related to each other. The first question is, right, during my interview, when I answered a question, the HR told me that my answers was too lengthy.
Okay.
The second question that is quite relevant to it is 8-minute self-introduction is too long? So we are talking about timing,
Timing,
yeah.
Interview, as I mentioned earlier, right, you only got 1 hour of face time with the recruiters, right? So 8 minutes of self-introduction is definitely too long, right? As I said earlier, right, when you're introducing yourself, right, you just need to make sure you do that within 30 seconds, right? To introduce, to be straightforward, impactful, right? Tell the recruiter who you are, right? And straight to the point. And then the rest, because you want to make sure that you give time to the recruiter to ask you more questions, isn't it? Right? And time flies very fast. 1 hour, I can tell you, within a split second, you realize 1 hour is gone. Okay. And of course, sometimes when you try to clarify or explain or give your answers to the recruiter, right? Yeah, please do not be too long-winded. Don't beat about the bush. Don't tell grandmother's story. Yeah, just answer straightforward what they ask you, what they want to know, straight to the point, unless they ask for further clarification.
Correct.
Yeah.
Be concise. Give the interviewer opportunity to ask you for elaboration or clarification.
Yes, correct.
Got it. Yeah. The next two is also quite a similar scenario. If I have worked in a company for 1 year or less, okay, the first question is based on the same scenario, right? The first question is, how do I tell my future employer the reason why I resigned from this company, right? And the second question is, do I even need to mention about this employment because it's such a short employment, right, in my resume?
Right, let me tackle the second question. That is easy, right? Well, if you encounter a recruiter from a recruiter perspective, this is what I will advise, right? If you have worked in a company less than 6 months, I say don't even bother to put in your CV, right? Because you put yourself in a very difficult position, right? How to explain, why I worked less than 6 months. So best anything less than 6 months and below, 2 months, 3 months, I think just leave them out. Okay, take it as a part-time job, right? As something you go through it, you experience it. Yeah. So if anybody asks you, just say, yeah, you work for some freelance or you work for part-time during this time. Yeah, that's why there was a 6 months gap. All right. Don't bother to even mention it, right? Because it's not going to be important, and you don't want to get yourself into trouble how to explain it, right? So, but let's say you already put it in your CV, right? Because you didn't come for the session, so you didn't know, and you put in your CV, and now you got to answer this question to your recruiter, right? So
why
do you handle it?
Yeah,
why do you resign such a short time? Actually, this is something which I'm currently experiencing now with one candidate, right? She actually joined this company, and she resigned, and now she's actually in the 10th month. So she actually had quite a challenging task to even get interviewed, because this is always a question, HR manager will ask, why this person left in that 6 months. So you must really come up with a good reason why you tender resignation with the company for less than 6 months. So for her case, I came up with stories to say that, there was some, the roles of her job was unclear. So when she joined the company, she's expected to do this task, but when after 6 months, her colleagues all left, and she ended up taking up more job from other colleagues, and she felt that the workload has actually expanded and has even not within her job scope anymore. So the roles, responsibilities were unclear, and there were no support from the company, and therefore she felt that she doesn't want to stay on in this company anymore. But to help you to answer this kind of question, I really need to know what are you experiencing right now? What was the reason you left, right? So that we as recruiter, because we are more neutral, we can help you and guide you how to actually answer this question when you meet up with the actual HR managers or interviewing you. Yeah. But don't put yourself in this kind of situation. It's not going to be very comfortable.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the trick of the story, the moral of the story is, if this happened to you like one time, you know, out of 5, 6 careers, right? This happened to you one time, the recruiter would actually be more forgiving about it. They would just let it go a little bit. But if that is a trend, you know, not that is a trend, employment trend, right? You stay in one company 6 months, then the next company 1 year, then the third company 11 months, then after you go back to 5 months or 6 months, right? Then what?
Yeah, you're very right. I think the trend, they will see your previous past employment history.
Correct.
Yes, because all of us make mistakes in decisions, right?
Yeah.
Making our career decisions. So sometimes if you make this one mistake, they're gonna not penalize you. But as long as you are able to explain it, yeah, I don't think there's any major problem. Now, a lot of HR are human beings as well, right? Hiring managers so they can understand. So you're very right, May. Yeah, the trend of your CVs, will help you a lot. Yeah, don't be a job hopper, right? So if you're a job hopper, definitely, nobody can help you anymore. But if this is only your one time, yes, May, you're right. You can explain it. Yes.
We actually started with the handling interview techniques, the Q&A session, right? Asking about what if I cannot answer a question. So I'm going to end this follow-up Q&A session, right, with the last question, right? Okay, that is of similar tone, but a little bit different. Okay. What to say if I suddenly go blank and cannot answer the interviewer question? Okay. Should I just say whatever on my head that I know? That's the first question. The second one is like how to avoid nervousness.
Yeah. I would say that if let's say a question is posed to you, right, and you suddenly go blank, right? Yeah. One way is to ask the interviewer to buy time. You need to buy time, right? So that you can calm down yourself. To ask the interviewer to please clarify, yeah, right? So just tell the interviewer, can you please repeat the question? Can you clarify, this question? So that it gives time for your brain to think, how to answer that question, right?
Okay.
So there's always no harm to do that, yeah. But if really you need time, yeah, you cannot answer it, ask for time. Just say, okay, can you give me a 1 minute? Let me think about how should I actually answer this question to you, right? And I think most hiring manager, recruiter will say, okay, take your time. They even ask you, don't worry, think about it, take your time, all right? Or the other third tricks that I always ask, tell my candidate will be, okay, maybe if this question you cannot ask, say, can I come back to you this question later on, right? Because at this moment, I don't have anything right now, but can you, come back to this question maybe towards the end? Yeah, I'm sure some recruiter, okay, we can ask you later on this question, right? So they will write it down, right? Maybe they ask you a second question, a different question, okay? So there are certain ways you can actually help yourself, right? To buy time for you to think of an answer. Secondly, how to avoid nervousness, right? Nervousness, yeah, I always have butterfly, even right now as I talk about it, right? I also have nervous butterfly in my stomach, one is, most important is, if let's say you don't want to show that nervousness, you can either hold a pen or hold something, that you feel comfortable with. And usually I will think of, something that I'm always, I don't look into the people's eyes directly. If let's say I'm making a speech, right? I will look at people that I'm more comfortable with, that will give me a more peaceful mind, calmness in myself. So if I look at someone's eyes, I feel nervous, right? So even like now, if I'm doing a virtual interview, yeah, I may be looking at some picture on my table here, that actually helps me to ease myself. So help me to relax myself, right? Relax myself that I don't feel so nervous. Or I'm holding something on my hand as well. Or I think of something that is positive instead of feeling nervous right now. So you have to think about what makes you not nervous and try to work on it. I hope I answered that question, May. So May, what do you think? How do you avoid nervousness then?
Practice and practice.
Practice and practice.
Practice and practice until you build up your muscle memory.
Agree as well.
That's how it works for me, right? So on this slide, when you're attending an interview, please check out Leaderboard Consulting webinar, handling interview techniques, and then get your BFF. They are your BFF for a reason, so that you are able to bully them Ask them to ask you all the interview questions that Sarah has actually shared and practice, okay?
Yes.
That would be a very, very good technique. Okay.
Correct.
We have actually finished the last question for the session already. However, right, we actually have a bonus question from one of the participants. Okay.
Oh.
And I'm just going to throw that question to you.
Okay.
I have zero idea of how to answer this question, right? Okay. Right. The question is, what is your superhero? I think the question is meant to be, who is your superhero?
Yeah.
And tell me why.
So I believe this question is directed to me, is it? Or it's not a question of how to answer this question. So this individual wants to know who is my superhero and tell him why. But I think, yes, this is also actually a question that somebody, usually some recruiters will use. And you know why they ask you? Because they also want to know, if you take a superhero, right, as something that you idolize because of certain unique quality in that superhero, right? And this is why they ask you, who is your superhero? And tell me why, right? So my superhero is Mr. Flash. Have you watched Flash? Right? Why I like Flash? Because he works fast, he thinks fast, and he sometimes makes decisions, not only that, he makes decisions also based on what he knows, but he also discuss it with his, he has got his girlfriend, right? His team that he works together, and they have a lot of discussion before sometimes they come up to a certain decision. But sometimes he is also very stubborn, especially if he believes what is right, he will actually go for it. So for me, that is my superhero, right? Because in a way, it reflects also my personality, right? I work fast, I also do things fast, yeah. But at the same time, I also discuss with my colleagues, my surrounding people who work together with me. But at times, I'm also stubborn. So that describes me, my character that relates to my superhero. That's how you should answer.
Now I'm concerned a little bit because my superhero would be Thanos, and I don't know what it says about me. Okay. So Sarah, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Okay. We will be sharing Sarah's contact number because I have felt that there are some questions that you wanted to actually ask her personally. Her email address will be actually posted in Leaderboard Consulting YouTube channel. Please feel free to drop her an email, okay, or drop any comments. I will make sure I'll force Sarah to answer to all your comments. Okay.
I'll only do my best. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Thank you very much. Thanks again, Sarah. Thank you so much. Right.
Thank you, May, for this session. Thank you.
Please take care. Stay well. Stay at home.
Yes. Stay well. Stay at home.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.